Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to New Jersey's Rare Disease Day event. I'm going to kick it off with a brief welcome video.
I am Tristan.
Angelina.
Nama saya Syafiq.
Regina.
Habari asubuhi, Javi.
Jeg Jon Christian, og jeg bor I Norge.
I live in the United States of America.
In Australia.
Malaysia.
No Brasil.
Tunaishi Kenya.
My passion is for fashion and design.
I love to dance.
Menyusur hutan.
Para viajar e descobrir novas culturas.
Anapenda kunitazama nikipuliza mapovu.
Jeg elsker idrett og spille spill med familien min. Minhas paixões são minha fuga quando as coisas estão difíceis.
Ada hari-harinya apabila melakukan perkara yang biasa akan jadi sangat susah.
When your disease makes you feel isolated.
It's difficult to walk.
Å være med på laget.
When I'm tired.
Afraid.
O controle da doença pode ser desafiador.
Atau mengecewakan bila saya kehilangan masa.
Muda muhimu sana.
But we learned to be resilient.
Para apreciar os pequenos detalhes que me trazem alegria.
Kumwona mtoto wangu wa kiume anavyofurahi tunapoenda nje. Nikijua anasikiza hadithi na sauti zilizo karibu.
Mencari titik perhubungan dengan masyarakat yang tak pernah saya sedar wujud.
Å være uavhengig på grunn av menneskene rundt meg.
Their fierce support.
Sua bondade inabalável.
The big love.
Mine venner.
Keluarga.
Enfermeiras.
Doctors.
Support workers.
Assistenter.
Mashirika ya wagonjwa.
Together, we are a strong community.
Nimeweza kuelekewa.
Histórias compartilhadas que me libertaram das dúvidas. Og gav meg selvtillit.
I am Tristan. I live with sickle cell.
I'm Angelina.
And she has CASC, a neurological disorder.
Saya Syafiq dan saya hidup dengan ectodermal dysplasia.
Regina, eu tinha leiomiosarcoma, câncer raro.
Huyu ni Harvey, ana SMA, spinal muscular atrophy.
Jon Christian og jeg har OI, medfødt benskjørhet. Esta minha vida.
Suara saya.
And I am more than my disease.
We are rare.
Kami ramai.
Nós somos fortes.
And we are proud.
Welcome. I'm Peter Saltonstall, President and CEO of the National Organization for Rare Disorders, and would like to welcome you to our 2021 Virtual Rare Disease Day event. But before we begin, I would like to send out a special thank you to all those advocates and others who have spent so much energy and time supporting the rare disease community. So thank you. The role of Rare Disease Day is to bring together advocates and patients from around the world to help tell the story about rare diseases. There are events like this happening virtually all over this country today. And some of the audiences that we're really trying to focus on are those in the state legislatures, where advocates and legislative people come together to understand the burden of rare diseases and the impacts it can have on them, and therefore build the appropriate legislation and pathway to make sure that bills are passed that support rare disease patients. As a matter of fact, NORD's doing that in a very focused way with rare disease advisory councils. We've got them set up down in 16 states and are building them in others. I think 2021 is going to be an interesting year for us. The reason I say that is because we've just come off of a very difficult year with a pandemic that's impacted the rare disease community in a number of different ways and has really shown some of the inequities in the healthcare system. For all of you that are watching today, the importance of the Rare Disease Advisory Councils is critical to the success of being able to communicate the story and the needs of the rare disease patient community. So in conclusion, I would really like to make sure that I recognize and thank all of those sponsors who have helped us make this day a reality. Without your continued support, none of this would happen. So a sincere thank you from all of us at NORD and the patient community. Taking part in events like today's are really important to the rare disease community, and we must always remember that alone we are rare, and together we are strong.
I hope you enjoyed those wonderful videos. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to the New Jersey Rare Action Network Rare Disease Day event. How good it is to see so many familiar faces. For those of you who don't know me, I am Julie Raskin, the New Jersey State Ambassador of the Rare Action Network, powered by NORD. I've had the pleasure of being at 9 Rare Disease Day events over the 9 years here in New Jersey. And like many of you here today, my journey to Rare Disease Day is personal. Almost 25 years ago, I moved to New Jersey, to Glen Ridge, from New York City with my husband, Mark, and my 2-year-old daughter, Hannah, in a snowstorm. I was 7 months pregnant, and 2 months later, I gave birth to my wonderful son, Benjamin, who we called Benji at the time. And in his second week of life, he was diagnosed with a rare disease, congenital hyperinsulinism, that causes low blood sugar or hypoglycemia. And if it's not treated in a timely manner and managed well, it can cause brain damage or death. It's very complicated to manage, and 1 in 50,000 babies in our country are born with it. And we have been very, very lucky because Ben has had the most incredible medical care team at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, a very supportive extended family, dear friends, a great school system. And with all of those supports, he's grown up and is leading a very full life. I joined together with other parents of those born with the condition, and together we founded in 2005 Congenital Hyperinsulinism International, so that we could help patients all over the world born with the condition. And through that experience, and also working closely with NORD and other advocacy organizations, I've learned the power of advocacy close up. So it's been such a difficult year, a tragic year. We've lost so many to COVID, and others are suffering just immeasurably from so many hardships from the pandemic. It's been a real double whammy for the rare disease community, because not only have we lost loved ones, but we've had to try and stay safe and care for those who are battling rare disease. But on the positive side, we have witnessed up close what the world can do when it comes together, when biotech and pharma come together with government. Who could ever imagine that in a year's time, there would be multiple vaccines that are approved and being distributed, that there are experimental treatments, and that there is just so much focus and knowledge about one disease. It's something we can only dream about in the rare disease community, to have that kind of focus. But it's what's been so positive is that the general public now understands the importance of clinical research and the urgent need for new treatments. And so our theme today is the establishment of a Rare Disease Advisory Council. I'm so excited for you to hear from our many brilliant speakers on why we need a council and what the creation of the Advisory Council will do for those with rare disease. My hope is that the council will efficiently study the needs of the rare disease community and create a blueprint for action. And the council, made up of patients, advocates, experts, and lawmakers, will apply all the lessons we've learned from COVID to create a brighter future for those living with rare disease in New Jersey. And now it is my utmost pleasure to introduce an amazing mother and advocate, the New Jersey Rare Action Network Community Engagement Liaison, Pat Gerds.
Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate that lovely introduction, and thank everyone for being here today to support Rare Disease Day. My name is Patricia Gerds. I'm the mother of 5 children, and my baby girl was born 2 days after Christmas 7 years ago, and she was born perfectly healthy, normal. Our family was complete, and around 2 months of age, she started to turn blue and have multiple issues happening. Fast forward 7 years, she's had 50 surgeries. I lived about a third of my life with her in the hospital. They say she's the rarest of the rare. We've been across the country to different children's hospitals, the best of the best, and they all kind of concur that whatever my daughter Kinsley has is so rare. Either they haven't discovered what it is yet, or no one else has it. So that being said, she's smart. She smiles. She lights up a room, and she's inspirational to everyone who has met her. And that's kind of what inspired me to do more for children like my daughter, and across the country, really. And last year at Rare Disease Day, I came, a very shy mom, just wanted to share a little bit of my story. And here I am a year later, sitting as the liaison. It's kind of mind-blowing, really, because last year I was just a spectator, and now here I am, a huge part of this. And I'm so honored and overwhelmed to be here. And with Julie, Julie's been my guiding grace, really, and to give me this opportunity through NORD and everybody, I'm extremely grateful for that. And I hope to make everybody proud and happy as we spread all the good word and get the medications and the procedures and RDAC going. It's going to change all of our lives in such a positive way. So I'm happy to be part of it, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Now, Anissa Reed, the Regional State Policy Manager and of the East Coast for NORD, will speak about the State Report Card and Rare Disease Advisory Councils.
Great, thank you so much, Julie. So let's start with the problem. So more than 25 million Americans are living with one of the more than 7,000 unique rare diseases. That breaks down to about 1 in 10 Americans. So even though that may seem like a lot, state decision makers still have limited awareness of the issues and impact that rare diseases have on patients, their caregivers, and the overall healthcare system. So what's the solution? NORD believes it's to create RDACs, a diverse body to advise state government on the common obstacles that the rare disease community faces. We see this as an enormous opportunity for government officials and the rare disease community to work together to develop resources necessary to prevent and address barriers in a strategic way. So there are a number of differences between each RDAC. So this includes the number of members on the council, varied members of the rare disease community represented on the council, differences in where the council works out of, and duties and accountability mechanisms. Overall, each RDAC has the same goal of supporting the rare disease community by increasing the voice of rare disease patients and caregivers at the state level. So to date, 16 states have passed RDAC legislation. We also have RDAC bills that are currently being heard in several other states, and New Jersey is one of those states. So as mentioned, we're thrilled to have passed RDAC legislation in several states, and we want to continue to increase the number to give as many rare disease advocates a voice in state government as possible. NORD highly encourages that different state RDACs collaborate with one another to share ideas and best practices. We plan to continue to develop and release toolkits and one-pagers, host webinars, and convene additional meetings to support ongoing RDAC work. So where is New Jersey with their RDAC efforts? So we're excited to report that the RDAC bills, Assembly Bill 4016 and identical bills, Senate Bill 2682, have been introduced. Some duties that the New Jersey RDAC would have is conducting a study on issues related to the quality of and access to treatment services for rare disease patients, establish best practice standards to share with healthcare providers to inform them of effective ways to recognize and treat rare diseases, and to develop strategies to raise public awareness of rare diseases in the state. The bill unanimously passed through the Senate Health and Human Services and Senior Citizens Committee on February 9th, and the Assembly bill passed through the Assembly Health and Senior Citizens Committee on January 13th. Julie and Pat actually did an amazing job orally testifying during these hearings, and we are really looking forward to continuing forward with this important legislation. So now I'm going to jump into an overview of an important tool that we use at NORD. In 2015, NORD launched its State Report Card project with the goal of evaluating how effectively states are serving people with rare diseases. This year marks the 6th edition of the State Report Card, which was compiled using data current as of November of 2020. So these are the policy issues that NORD's report card focuses on. It is important to note, however, that these issues are not exhaustive. These issues touch on several critical and relevant policy areas at the state level, but with each issue included, there are still many others that are capable of impacting the lives of rare disease patients. So how do you find out where your state measures up? You can select your state by clicking this link, and each state page is also available in a printable version. So these are just small snapshots of some policy issues that impacted the rare disease community in 2020. Current legislation and changes that have been made so far in 2021 have likely not yet been captured. So if your state recently passed some legislation to improve one of the policy issues, they might not have that higher grade until our 7th edition. So the website also provides a detailed overview of the data, and you can learn more about each policy issue in the methodology section. So if you have any questions about our report card, then you can always send us an email at policy@rarediseases.org. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce Heather Lanier, who is the author of Raising a Rare Girl. So I will now turn it over to you, Heather.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I want to talk about my daughter, Fiona, who has 4p-, which is a deletion on the short arm of the 4th chromosome. And that creates a lot of people with this syndrome do not end up having a life where they speak. So at age 2, it was very clear to us that she could understand a whole lot of things. She could like kiss a baby doll if someone said, kiss the baby doll or hug the baby doll. And she could throw a little protest if I, said it's time to eat pureed sweet potatoes. But she couldn't express very much at all. She could only make like an ah sound or an H sound. And so it was clear that there was this big gap between what she could understand and what she could communicate. And as a writer, to me, this seemed like a real problem because how could I give my daughter the opportunity to communicate in this world when her mouth wasn't catching up with what I think she really wanted to say. Her therapists, when we brought them in to consult about what to do, the therapist said that they didn't think she could really handle like a speech device because her fine motor skills were limited. She was delayed in that area. And they said a speech device would mean that she had to like touch different buttons and she didn't have that capability. But at age 2.5, I called in an AAC expert, which is augmentative and alternative communication. And that changed my life. And changed my daughter's life. So if you can find those people in your life who suddenly believe in you in a way that no one else in the room does. That's what happened. I'm crying a little bit because it was such a big deal. So this AAC expert comes into the living room and watches my daughter and watches all that she does and all the things that other people had seen were impossibilities. And instead what she saw when she saw my daughter was someone who was incredibly capable of expression and communication, and said, we need to get this child a device. And so we all talked and said, okay, well, we didn't think she could handle a device, but if you think so, how many words should the device have? Should it have 10 words? Because, her fingers have a hard time locating different things on the screen. So maybe 10 words is too much. Would her fingers be able to hit that? What about 20 words? Is 20 words too much? Maybe, what's the amount of words we can give her so that she can express herself? And the AAC expert says the most brilliant thing in the room. She says, you give her all the words. She can understand them. You give them all to her. And that's how we ended up with a device that gave Fiona thousands of words. So if you could give me the next slide, thanks. This is the app she started using, and you can see she's using 2 fingers there. At the time, that was a really big deal. There were thousands of words in this device. It's called Speak for Yourself, the app that we started using. With just the one meeting with this one person who believed that this was possible, we worked for over a year on just modeling the device for her, showing her things that she could say with it. Pretty quickly within the year, she was able to use it in a way that was targeted. So she could make jokes, she could make like puns, which was, her mouth could still only say ah and ha, and here she was like dropping puns. She could make requests, of course, and she could also express her love. So if you look at the next slide, here's something that she had shared with us at one point. I modeled for her on the talker, which is what we called it. Who do you love? And she replied, Petra, who's her sister, Mom, me, Grammy, Grand Merrill, myself. And I loved that. It's like a picture of it because she was able to express self-love in a way that her mouth would never have enabled. So the purpose of me speaking to you is simply to say that communication is a fundamental human right. And if someone doesn't have the means to communicate through their mouths, we should be legally abided or bound to provide another way for them, whether that's a device like this iPad or something more simple. Everyone needs to have AAC experts in their lives if they are nonverbal, because we all have things to say. You can read more about this story in my book. You can look at the next slide, which is Raising a Rare Girl. And I also talk a bit about it in a TED Talk, and you can find me there. Thank you so much for listening.
Wow, Heather, that was really, really great. And it's something we wouldn't have thought of on our list for the RDAC. So I'm so glad that you brought it up and that you shared it with us. And the way you phrase that, communication is a legal right. It's your voice is so important, and your daughter's. So thank you. And now it is a pleasure to introduce Dr. Masumi Bose, Assistant Professor at Montclair State University, and somebody who knows rare disease very personally.
Thank you very much. I'm really just excited for this opportunity, and I was so touched by Heather's story, and I want to share a little bit about my story and my experiences with you. So I'm going to just start out by saying I love New Jersey. I love where I live. You know, I moved here in 2002 for grad school, and I just soaked up everything that New Jersey had to offer. I loved the produce, the access to beautiful hiking trails, the seasons, pizza, and even with healthcare. I remember driving through New Brunswick, going through an overpass, seeing a sign that said the healthcare city, and I was just really excited when I moved here. I felt like I had everything living here at my fingertips. You know, and I think in loving where you live, you know, it's really important to talk about and think about what can be done to sort of make this place that you love better. And so, you know, now nearly 2 decades after moving here, I realized that while I still love so many things about New Jersey, my sort of take and my understanding of healthcare, especially when it came to healthcare for specific groups of people, was a little short-sighted. And that sort of new perspective is really given to me by my son, Ilan, who was born in 2010. And he had a disease called Zellweger spectrum disorder, which is this rare genetic disease that results in multiple disabilities and a very, very shortened life expectancy. And we had 14 months with Ilan, which we are so, so grateful for. But I was really, during those 14 months, I was really stunned at what limited options there were for Ilan in terms of healthcare. So imagine being here in this amazing state where there's, you know, multiple well-networked hospital systems, over 100 hospitals, many of them nationally ranked, and industries so grounded and rooted in healthcare innovation. And amidst all of that, being told by your doctors and medical professionals that they had never heard of the disease that your son had, that there were no treatments available for him, and he probably wouldn't live to see his first birthday. And that the only information, that the only like advice or recommendations that they could give to you is to take him home and love him for as long as you had him. And, you know, these statements and recommendations, while I realized they were mostly well-meaning, these are a direct result of a lack of awareness and a lack of understanding of not just this disease, but so many other rare diseases. And that's where it starts, this lack of awareness. This lack of awareness is what contributes to a lack of research. And without research, we don't have treatment options for people that are affected by rare diseases. And if we were to just change that one thing, just to increase awareness, this can be an important step in going from, you know, physicians and medical professionals just sort of throwing their hands up and saying, hey, there's nothing we can do here, to having really viable treatment options that are accessible to patients and families affected by rare disease. And and awareness is just a small fraction of what I believe a rare disease advisory council can do. And by engaging stakeholders within the rare disease space with patients and family at the center, we have the ability to do so much, not just raise awareness, but foster collaboration in a way that will result in increased education for medical professionals, improved and quicker diagnostic processes, funding for research, and again, increasing access to better treatment options to improve, that can potentially improve the quality of life for patients and families affected by rare disease. And within, I believe a rare disease advisory council has the ability to not just promote engagement, but just do it in such a broad way across so many sectors to drive significant change for rare disease. In my own sort of professional space, I conduct research at Montclair State, and I recently finished a study where I was collecting data from parents of a specific rare disease, and I was asking them questions. And I compiled all this information together, and this information was something that an industry colleague was actually interested in knowing as a means to sort of have information to better inform clinical trials for this disease. So right here, we've got this type of cross collaboration across different sectors. And I know that in this state, there are so many people with so much talent, so much insight, so much know-how that goes far beyond what I was able to accomplish here in just this little study. And if we could effectively engage this pool of talent through these peoples and these institutions through a unifying entity like a Rare Disease Advisory Council, I really believe the possibilities are endless. So I will just sort of finish there and just say I strongly support the formation of a Rare Disease Advisory Council in New Jersey, and I look forward to working with my fellow rare disease stakeholders in this effort. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Masumi. That was really, really a great talk. And you, as somebody, as a professional working in the field, having the personal experience of living through parenting a child with a devastating disease, and then being able to take that knowledge and combine it with your professional, ability to take data and make personal experience come alive through the data and make it shareable. It's really, really a gift that you're in this field, and I'm so excited to work with you in the future, as many, many people are, so thank you. And now we're going to move on to another section of our day. We're going to have presentations by healthcare providers and members of industry, and we have a number of really exceptional people who are going to share with us their experiences and their perspectives and what they bring, their sectors, to the collaborations that we need for the Rare Disease Advisory Council and beyond. So we will begin with Will Lewis, who is the chairman and CEO of InSmed Biotech and the chairman of the board of Bionj. So Will, we're so excited that you're here. We're all ready to listen to you.
Thanks, Julie, very much. As Julie mentioned, I'm the CEO and chair at InSmed and also chair at Bionj. And through those positions, I have really the privilege of working with a team literally around the world that's sole mission is to help patients with serious and rare diseases. At InSmed, supporting this rare disease community, it drives everything we do. We are a rare disease company. And I'm immensely proud that our first approved therapy was for a disease that prior to our involvement had nothing approved to treat it. It's called refractory non-tuberculous mycobacterial lung disease. And it's one of those names that you would never hear and never want to hear, but it sits among the 7,000 rare diseases, 90% of which do not have an approved therapy. We were able to develop a therapy and take one of those diseases off the list. But the work continues, And if we're going to continue to develop therapy, we need to realize in this industry, it means focusing on patient outcomes, not just the drug. At our company, the way we pursue this is we have something called the Caregivers group. This is named after our lead product, and it's literally a white glove support service to ensure that the patients have the best experience on their therapeutic journey. You know, I use this, what I call the holiday test at our company. And I say to people, God forbid one of your family members were to get sick. The drug we're developing and the support we provide, if it were your family member and you were sitting at the holiday table, is what we're doing the kind of thing that would make you proud to slide it across the table in front of your family members and say, this is going to make a difference in your life. If it meets that test, then we will invest our time and efforts behind it. One of the lessons I've learned from being at Bionj and certainly from being at Insmed is to do rare disease right, you need all stakeholders at the table. You need to think about the patients and the doctors, but also the other caregivers, and importantly, the families who are experiencing what it's like to deal with a rare disease. You need the patient support groups. And most importantly, we can't discuss treatment options without talking about access. Every patient should have access to a therapy that may be of benefit to them. Recently at Insmed, we celebrated Rare Disease Day, as we always do every year. The way we do this is we bring patients in and we listen to their stories and we understand their therapeutic journey. You know, rare disease takes a different mindset. It's very bespoke. Each person's experience is different, and the inadequacy of attention to this area requires us to really think carefully about how we can help. It starts with listening to the patient and what they're going through. I know a little bit about this because I lost my oldest brother to a rare disease. When this happened to us, it hit us out of nowhere. 6 months after he got married, he was told, you have a 1 in 20 chance of living. He fought for 20 years against this disease, and ultimately, he did not survive. But I bring this story up and I tell this to people because I want them to know a message of hope as well. Patients today diagnosed with his condition have a 90% chance of survival. And I say this because I want you to all understand that what we do matters. We can make a difference. I am immensely proud of the work we do at Insmed, but I'm also humbled by those who are the recipients of our efforts. And while I take a moment to celebrate their courage and I send them and their families the energy that I know they need, I want you all to know that at Insmed, every day is Rare Disease Day. And so let me add my voice to the call for the creation of a New Jersey Rare Disease Advisory Council. Let's turn our energy and our innovation into action. And let me end by saying a sincere thank you to NORD, the Rare Action Network, and especially Julie Raskin for inviting me here today. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Will. Thank you so much. With each speaker, I'm just so excited about the potential for what we're all going to do together and how New Jersey is just going to have the most amazing Rare Disease Advisory Council with all of these talented and driven individuals. Thank you so much. And now we're going to hear from Debbie Hart. Debbie is the president and CEO of Bionj, and she's been with us for many, many Rare Disease Days and has been such a supporter, and Bionj is a partnering organization.
Thank you so much, Julie. And I think I've been here with you for all of those 9 years, and it's truly an honor and a pleasure. And congrats to you and to NORD on such an important program today. I just have to say thank you to Heather and Masumi for sharing your just incredible and just really moving stories. And, Godspeed to you, and thoughts and prayers along the way for you and all your fellow patients and patients' families. I'd like to thank our chair, Will Lewis, for being here to share his inspiring story. Bionj is delighted to once again partner and participate in Rare Disease Day. This event importantly sheds a light on rare disease patients and caregivers. And at Bionj, we believe that every patient should have access to the treatment they need when they need it, because as we say, patients can't wait. For so many New Jerseyans with the diagnosed rare disease, there is no treatment or cure. You've heard the statistics, nearly 95% of rare diseases do not have a dedicated therapy. We're proud here in the Garden State that so many New Jersey companies are focused on changing that. Companies like Insmed, you just heard from Will, Sologenics, our former chairman, Chris Shaber, Dr. Chris Shaber is on the line, PTC Therapeutics, Amicus Therapeutics, to name just a few. And I'm delighted to represent these companies along with so many of our larger members, such as Merck, Sanofi, BMS, J&J, Novartis, and more, many of whom also have rare disease programs. We must do more. Our companies are doing lots, but we must do more as a state to raise awareness. That's why I'm so pleased that we're joined by some of our Rare Disease Advocacy Council legislative sponsors today, because you are doing more, they are doing more. Assemblyman Benson, Assemblyman Dancer, Senators Kane and Gopal, thank you so much for your work in making the Rare Disease Council a reality. I understand that Assemblywoman Carol Murphy is on the line as well. Assemblywoman, thank you for being here. We are so close to the finish line and so grateful for all of your leadership on behalf of rare disease patients here in New Jersey. We stand ready to assist in any way on this important legislation. So to close, thank you again to our legislators and all of you who are here today for partnering on this important event. And thank you for your tireless advocacy as patients, families, and caregivers. Your powerful voices are much needed, and I dare say that they are making a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I really, really appreciate that you've been with us all these 9 years, and so excited about our momentum and everything you bring to the collaboration. And now we're going to move on to Dr. Jennifer Kalish from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And I've had the pleasure of working with Dr. Kalish on rare disease initiatives, collaborative research networks, and so much more. Dr. Kalish. You might be on mute. I know you're here.
I'm here, sorry. It's a pleasure to be here today and to talk a little bit from the perspective of the genetics clinic, and both in terms of the diagnostic odyssey that a lot of patients face as they're moving forward in trying to both get the diagnosis and management of a rare disease. I personally specialize in Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, which is a disease that affects about 1 in 10,000 live births. And speaking about BWS specifically, I would say about 30% of the patients that I see in clinic have a diagnostic odyssey as they're trying to get the diagnosis initially by the time they come to our clinic. And access to both our clinic and other specialist care is a real challenge for a number of the patients that we see. And one of the things that this collaborative group can work towards is improving that process for families so they don't have to struggle to get the diagnosis and to have the appropriate management. From the genetics perspective, also, one of the biggest challenges patients face, in addition to the diagnosis, to the clinical diagnosis, is the genetic testing and access to genetic testing that's recommended by myself or other geneticists or specialists that they see, and having that genetic testing, which can be extremely expensive, covered by medical insurance. And in our clinic, at least, I was talking to my genetic counselor yesterday in clinic, and he was telling me that he spends about 20% of his time trying to get authorization for genetic testing, even though we've already made a diagnosis and we think we have the appropriate testing. So that can be very challenging for patients and families to sort of maneuver through the system. And one of the things that this group can really do to help, in addition to providing access to care, is to providing access to that complete amount of care. In addition, as you know, with rare diseases, education both of patients and families, but also of other healthcare providers and the general public about different rare diseases is very important. And that's something that this council can bring together as well. And finally, as was touched on by the two previous speakers, the partnership with industry and research is essential to move rare disease in general, but even with each specific disease forward, so we can help improve the care for our patients. Because for Beckwith-Wiedemann syndrome, for example, there is no treatment at the moment. It's a cancer predisposition syndrome, and it causes overgrowth, and we can manage each part and each syndrome, each symptom that a patient has, but there's no treatment at the moment. And through partnerships, we can treat individual parts of it, which is how Julie and I know each other, because hyperinsulinism is part of the syndrome as well. But it's these things that are essential to both bring to this larger group and have this larger group help advocate for both patients, families, and the partnership between physicians and industry. Thank you very much for your time today, and it's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kalish, and I'm so glad that you could join us and share your remarks. When we move on to have a Rare Disease Advisory Council, the voices of clinicians and researchers who are on the front lines treating patients and working on new treatments, it's invaluable to us, and especially with a focus on genetics. So thanks so much. And now it is a pleasure to introduce to you another veteran of our Rare Disease Days in New Jersey, Dean Peronicus, who is the CEO and President of the Healthcare Institute of New Jersey. And also Hinge has been a partnering organization and helped us tremendously this year and every year with Rare Disease Day.
Julie, thank you, and good morning, everyone. And Hinge is delighted to continue to work with and support this very, very important effort, and certainly look forward to the day very soon when we have our own Rare Disease Advisory Council here in New Jersey. I'd like to spend my allotted time this morning to talk about an area that is not quite as prominent, but very, very important to the rare disease community. That's the impact of medical devices and medical technology in the diagnosis and treatment of rare diseases. And certainly Heather's presentation with the iPad is a very good example of how critical devices can be. Folks often don't think about the critical role that the devices and medical technology can play in this field. And devices and technology can run the gamut from something as simple as a tongue depressor to very sophisticated diagnostic tests and high-tech mobility devices, 3D printing for individual tailored needs. And of course, what this does is it represents both a great opportunity and a challenge for the healthcare and rare disease patient communities. It's a great opportunity because medical devices are at the heart of the identification, diagnosis, and treatment of rare diseases, and can do a great deal to improve the quality of life of rare disease patients, particularly pediatric patients. However, it's a great challenge because even though medicines and devices share many characteristics, the development of medical devices to address rare diseases is not as well known, and in fact has lagged that of medicines for a range of reasons, which has produced a large unmet need. There are some significant differences categorically that cause this. There's a different incentive structure. There's a different risk profile from both the financial and developmental side. There are difficulties in addressing the threshold issue of even diagnosing rare diseases. And certainly there are great challenges in terms of the scientific and technical issues of adapting physical therapeutic devices to the often unique physical characteristics of pediatric patients and building in flexibility where possible to accommodate a child's physical development. This is not a new problem. It goes back 30 years. And in fact, back in 1990, Congress and the FDA recognized the need, and it resulted in the Safe Medical Device Act of 1990, which provided a streamlined pathway for approval of what are known as humanitarian use devices under humanitarian device exemption process. Now, what that means is there's a streamlined process to get the products into the hands of patients, but the law actually limited the number of the universe that could be addressed this way to fewer than 4,000 individuals in the US per year. Fortunately, the 21st Century Cures Act, which was passed just a few years ago with, I know, the active effort of all of us on this call today and many others, doubled that number, but it's still only 8,000. So you could see that this is a major issue. And in fact, just a few years ago in 2018, the FDA, in conjunction with the National Center for Advancing Translational Services, did a survey of unmet medical device needs. And they surveyed over 1,300 clinicians, over 1,100 of whom were physicians. And I'm just going to identify a couple of points that really emphasize this. Over 90% of the clinicians believed the newer device, improved devices needed, and they identified nearly 500 unique rare diseases with nearly 1,000 specified unmet needs, and more than 2/3 cited a need for an entirely new device. So you could see that this is a major frontier that needs to be addressed for the benefit of the rare disease community. And that's where establishing the Rare Disease Advisory Council here in New Jersey, and then working along with its 16 counterparts in other states, will help bring attention to how devices and technology can help rare disease patients. And certainly by raising this awareness of these needs and working to expand and accelerate the humanitarian device exemption process, hopefully will encourage device makers to meet the unmet needs and ensure that there's a better future ahead in terms of having both effective drug regimes as well as a medical device and technology framework in order to help improve the lives and quality of life of rare disease patients. So we're looking forward to working with all of you and with the Rare Disease Advisory Council to address this critical area for the benefit of our rare disease community everywhere. Thank you again.
Dean, thank you so much for your remarks. And what you have to say about devices is something I know very personally. In the congenital hyperinsulinism community, we could benefit from a device like a continuous glucose monitor, but it is only approved for diabetes and isn't so effective in the lower hypoglycemia range. But that is just a perfect example of where we need a device for our rare disease and for all of those people who suffer from hypoglycemia disorders, all the rare hypoglycemia disorders. And then the artificial pancreas is a great example of all who suffer from diseases that affect the pancreas, rare conditions. Having a pump that, you know, where there's a flow of medication that is needed is something we need a device for. And there are hundreds and hundreds of those examples. So having Hinge be, you know, an active part of the Rare Disease Advisory Council is just so important. Thank you so much for those remarks.
Thank you.
And now we're going to hear from Dr. Punita Gupta, who is also focusing on genetics, which is such an important part of the work that needs to get done in the council. Hello, Dr. Gupta.
Hi, Julie. Thank you for inviting me to speak at this rare disease event. Most of my interactions have either been with my professional colleagues or with my patients in the past, and it is new for me to be part of this very diverse and influential group. Nevertheless, I absolutely echo what all my previous speakers have, how they have expressed their support to an advisory council for rare diseases in New Jersey. In my role as the Chief of Genetics at St. Joseph's Medical Center, not a clinic day goes by where I have not seen a patient with a rare disease. Not a day goes by where I have not been exasperated by the monstrosity of the task of convincing insurance companies why a certain medical test is necessary or an expensive treatment with an orphan drug is life-saving for my patient with a rare disorder. Not a day goes by where I have not provided the diagnosis of a rare disorder to a family, had a long discussion about the what, the why, the how, why me, why us, the most dominant questions in the beginning. And most of all, how do we move on from here? Where do we go and what now? Knowing fully well that I will be having this conversation many times again as they move from denial to acceptance of this new diagnosis. The speakers before me have highlighted their experience with rare disorders, either in their personal lives or through their professional roles. While I echo all of them, I would like to bring to attention a few specific challenges that I have faced here in my genetics clinic. St. Joseph's Hospital serves a low socioeconomic community where a majority of the population is covered through Medicaid or receives charity care. And this poses an additional challenge while taking care of patients with rare diseases. One of my patients with SMA type 1, it's a condition in where the child doesn't actually develop motor milestones because of the absence of a certain protein called survival motor neuron protein. This patient's insurance actually approved the FDA-approved treatment Spinraza when the drug became first available. But a year later, this drug was denied, saying that she did not meet their specific criteria. I and my team spent many collective hours on the phone with the insurance company representatives, multiple peer-to-peer discussions, but ultimately the drug was denied. My documented detailed physical exam demonstrating the improvement in some of her muscle movements, the decrease in her requirement for repeated suctioning, her improved respiratory status did not match their set clinical outcomes. The fact that she was no longer drowning in her own secretions was not an improvement that could be captured by their strict criteria. As a result, she missed a dose. Her next dose was provided through the compassionate use program by the company, but we are still trying to figure out where to go from here. There are many situations where genetic testing is denied as it is considered unnecessary or experimental by the insurance company. The field of medicine has advanced many-fold, but insurance companies and policies are lagging far behind. Our letters of medical necessities and prior auth paperwork consist of not just the patient note, but also supporting research papers and guidelines which demonstrate the utility of a certain diagnostic genetic test. When denied, it delays the diagnosis, and vital time is lost if there is a treatment option or alternate management plan available for this patient. It is when I have to alter my recommendation for genetic testing based on what the insurance will approve rather than what should be done that I know we are not providing what is in the best interest for the patient. As previously mentioned, there are more than 7,000 unique rare diseases, and it is difficult for state policymakers and government officials to have an in-depth understanding of the entire rare disease community. No doubt, having an advisory council in the state of New Jersey will help alleviate the challenges faced. I fully support formulating this advisory council. Thank you, Julie, for inviting me here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. And I'm so glad that you highlighted all of the issues with gaining access to genetic testing, to new and very important treatments, and how we need to come together so that physicians are not burdened with writing letter after letter of medical necessity, and so that caregivers and patients don't have to spend their precious time fighting to get access to the diagnostics and the treatments that they need. Are just such important points. And I just want to thank you for the wonderful Rare Disease Day event that you put on at St. Joseph's. And I was so touched by your patience and the eloquence with which they spoke and shared what they're living through. And we're all just the better for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now it is such a pleasure to introduce you to today, the sponsors of our Rare Disease Advisory Council bill that's going through the legislature in New Jersey. And I want to thank one particular advocate who's been so strong from the beginning of this, Nadia Bodkin, who worked together years ago with legislators to have this bill introduced. So thank you so much, Nadia, for the work that you've done. And I know that you're going to continue to be such a strong advocate on this bill, and just so important to its creation and to the work that it will do. And now I'd like to start with our sponsor of the bill, Representative Daniel Benson from the 14th District of New Jersey, who's been just an incredibly wonderful advocate and has come to many of our Rare Disease Day events and is always there for the rare disease patients. So thank you, Representative Benson.
Thank you so much, Julie. And I just want to thank everyone on this call. You, not only in the work that you're doing professionally, in helping patients and consumers, but in the advocacy that you're doing jointly to really shine a spotlight on issues of healthcare access. I've served in many capacities in the legislature. I serve on the budget committee now, which often is so important. But I have always served in all 10 years of the legislature on the health committee, sometimes as vice chair, but always as an active member. And I've had that time to speak with so many of not only the organizations that are represented here today, Bionj and Hinge and NORD, but also to participate in Rare Disease Day pretty much every one of those years. And a lot of this passion for myself has started out from representing constituents with rare diseases from my days, first as councilman and then as a county freeholder, now commissioner, and then in the legislature now. And what I had found was how much of time is just lost when parents could be parenting or caring for the needs of their child is spent on the phone, often in tears, just trying to handle getting either waivers or getting that approval or trying to overturn a denial from a insurance company. And so that was why I was active in sponsoring legislation on capping copays for specialty drugs in certain insurance plans. It's why I'm a sponsor on this for the Rare Disease Advisory Council. We need more of the folks that are on this call to be at the table when we set up the systems, so that the systems aren't not discriminatory as they are now so often for those with complex medical needs. The answer screens and the forms that are created to try to lump large numbers of patients together for efficiency are leaving so many of our kids and so many of our family members with rare disease off the page. And so we have to continue this fight to make sure we have access, whether it's for network adequacy or the fight that we're having now in the legislature to get a Rare Disease Advisory Commission. Imagine when the state looks at MCO reimbursement, or they look at state health benefit plans, which cover so much of New Jerseyans, or we look at broadly the legislation that we look at for access to medical devices, to genetic testing. All of those things can be informed by those research papers that were mentioned. I'm probably one of the few legislators that actually have attended a hearing of the Health Benefits Commission, where we were fighting a denial for one of my constituents. I was there just in a sense of solidarity, but to actually see that process going forward really showed why we run into so many of these problems. When you have, insurance peer-to-peer doctors there that are not familiar with the field, that are comparing them to other conditions that are so vastly different than the rare diseases that folks are represented here are facing. And so that's why we need this advisory committee. It's why we need this legislation. It's why I'm proud to partner with my colleagues, Dancer and Assemblywoman Murphy, who's on. We got to get this done. It's one of my priorities for this session. And as the folks that have worked with me before, I see Wendy on the call, and I see Debbie and John Slotman. You know how hard I work to make sure that we get to the finish line. And I know we will this year in the Assembly, and I know with our partners in the Senate, they will too. So I just want to talk about my passion for this, as I have so often, working with those families, not only in my district, but across New Jersey, to make sure that they're heard and to make sure that the experts are what's listened to, as opposed to necessarily that third party that really doesn't understand what's going on here. You don't have to, and I come from a science background, so I know just because I have a physics undergraduate doesn't mean I can necessarily understand a medical condition. I know, folks that are specialists within medical fields aren't always going to understand somebody from another area. So when we talk peer-to-peer, it's not always a true peer-to-peer relationship when we talk with insurance companies. And so we need to find allowances and processes to make sure those with rare diseases or complex medical needs are not put into a box from which they can't get care. So we have a lot of work to do. I want to thank everyone for their support of our legislation. And together we will get this done, and we will have a brighter future for our children, our family members that are living, thriving, and surviving with rare disease. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Assemblyman Benson. And what you say is just So true. And you've just had so much care and support and passion for our cause, and you're really turning our hope into action. So we are just so grateful to you for all the work that you're doing on this bill and everything else you're doing for the rare disease community and all the citizens of New Jersey. And next we have Assemblyman Ron Dancer. Assemblyman Dancer, are you with us? I'm not sure I saw you on the participant list. Well, I'm not sure. Well, I'm so,
I think, can you hear me now? I was on mute.
Yes, great. I just want to first thank you so much for introducing the bill, being our first sponsor, and all the work that you've done to bring this to where we are today. So just thanks a million, and I can't wait to hear your remarks.
Okay, well, we are fortunate to have my colleague and friend, Assemblyman Benson, as a prime sponsor of the legislation. The Assemblyman is in the majority, and that's very important to help expedite and facilitate bills like this that have, bipartisan support. And so I'm very thankful that I can work with Dan on this legislative initiative to establish the Rare Disease Advisory Council. You may have already been updated, of course, that it's been passed with Dan's help through the Assembly on January 13th. That's the Assembly Health Committee. And also in the Senate, Senator Gopal, I think that was February the 9th that it passed out of the Senate committee. So we have an Assembly voting session coming up the end of the month, which will be March 25th. The Senate has a voting session coming up March 18th. There were amendments in committee that I think most everyone is aware. So both bills, the Senate bill and the Assembly bill, are identical right now. And we're hopeful that we can get the bills posted for the 18th in the Senate, the 25th in the Assembly, and then on to the governor's desk. And that's where I think too, I would appreciate any help that we can get from your groups that have been so active in, well, actually 16 other states. New Jersey would become the 17th state, including neighboring New York and Pennsylvania, that have a rare disease advisory council. But I'm reaching out to you and to those that are in your groups, your associations. I know there's a wide spread volunteer organization here. And I've spoken obviously with Julie and Nadia and others. But I'm going to ask you to, once we get this through the legislature, to do all you can to encourage our governor, which I believe he'll sign the legislation. It's bipartisan. It's the right thing to do, but we don't want to be complacent. I think that's important, that you do reach out to your members and just urge and support for a signature on this bill. One other last item that I would bring to I don't have to really bring it to your attention, but I think we are heightening not only public awareness, but the legislature's awareness. I personally, as a legislator, was not aware, like 1 in 10 New Jerseyans are faced with rare disease in the rare disease community. And right now, under this COVID era that we are in, as I began to learn more about this, and you see that the rare disease community patients, they have many of them immunosuppressed systems, and they are certainly susceptible to a higher degree for, well, neurological, respiratory, even, well, those type of situations where we need to establish this advisory council to move forward on bringing all the professionals, the medical people, and the state legislature policymakers together to bring greater treatment, intervention, And I think, as the Assemblyman Benson had mentioned, about insurance as well, whether it be with the Medicaid or through other private insurance, we need to make sure that the coverages are there that we need to provide to our rare disease community patients.
Thank you so much for your remarks, Assemblyman Dancer, for your leadership and for your continued work and your bipartisan spirit. It's so important to the bill passing and becoming law.
You're welcome.
Yes. So now we're going to move on to Senator Vin Gopal, who's also a great friend to the rare disease community and has joined on as a primary sponsor in the Senate. And we're really excited to hear from you.
Thank you, Julie. And thank you to everyone on here, the advocates and legislators, to my assembly sponsor, who actually was the one who called me and asked me to sponsor this bill, Assemblyman Dancer. I appreciate him educating me on this issue, as well as all of you. And to my Senate sponsors, Senator Kane, Senator Singer, Assemblywoman Poe, and to the other assembly sponsors, primary sponsors, Assemblyman Danson, Assemblyman Varelli, Assemblyman DePhillips, Assemblywoman Shapezi, Assemblyman Giblin, and Assemblywoman Valerie Vanieri Huddle. So I got 1, 2, 3, 7, we go 10, 11 folks, and that's actually really good, and it's a testament to the work that you guys are all doing in your respective districts. And please take a look. I think Assemblyman Benson or Assemblyman Dancer said, if your legislator has not sponsored, please send them and urge them. The more sponsors, the better look. I'm honored to join you on this battle. I learn of stories of rare diseases regularly, and I never would have known about some of them if I didn't have a constituent or a resident who tells me a very personal story. And then when I see it, I find that others are going through similar challenges, not just here, but across the country and across the world. And we need more education. You know, we know Rare Disease Day is typically held the last day of February, but we've seen what's happened now across the country. Treatment for many rare diseases are simply just insufficient. Social networks to support these individuals with rare disease and their families often don't get the support because they're smaller amounts of people that are suffering from this. But what happens often in these situations, that smaller amounts will become larger very quickly. So honored to support this bill. This is not unique to New Jersey. We're seeing across the world, countries are beginning to battle rare diseases, not just with science and research, but with simply awareness. Because many of the rare diseases I've learned about, I had never even heard of them. And then if any resident is struggling through this, we know others are through too. So I look forward to working as hard as possible, as I know, obviously as the Senate sponsor, but all of the sponsors on the bill, this is a priority. We hope to get this moved quick. We hope the governor will sign it quick, and we hope we can bring not just awareness, but also resources, tools, and much more in the months and years ahead to combat rare diseases here in New Jersey. Thank you for giving me a couple minutes to say hello.
Thank you so much, Senator Gopal. And we're so honored that you're working with us on this. And I can't agree with you more that we have to get this passed as soon as possible, get working on it, turn hope into action, and do even more than raise awareness to really improve the lives of all of those in New Jersey living with rare diseases. So now we're going to move on to Senator Tom Kane. Senator Tom Kane is also a primary sponsor of the bill and is also a great advocate for people with rare diseases. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator Kane.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you as well as with Senator Gopal, Assemblyman Benson, Assemblyman Dancer. The three of them are incredible leaders in the legislature in both chambers. And it's important to have the bipartisan testament and strong support on both sides of the aisle. So I want to thank them for all of their leadership and allowing me to participate on the bill and advocate for the bill, but also I want to thank all of you for all of your history of advocacy and making sure that we as legislators and people across the country understand the importance of this issue now and going forward. A year ago, I saw an article posted online called 5 Rare Diseases That You Never Knew Existed. And the author's day of the piece was to empower government, scientists, healthcare professionals to find treatments. Among the diseases that he cited was Stone Man syndrome, which affects only 1 in 2 million people. Alice in Wonderland syndrome, first described in 1955. Sufferers of this syndrome became confused by distorted visual perception. People, buildings, and other objects became to be seen as smaller or larger than reality, thus the name. In this country, an estimated 25 to 30 million people are affected by rare diseases. Most of the almost 7,000 rare diseases they suffer may look from such unique names and descriptions, but they are every bit as puzzling and mysterious, even to healthcare professionals. More often than not, doctors struggling to treat a patient may have never encountered the symptoms, let alone heard or read about a rare disease. For 1/3 of patients with a rare disease, receiving an accurate diagnosis takes between 1 and 5 years. Patients often have to travel long distances to consult few doctors who are knowledgeable about their condition. And as a result, the costs involved in the diagnosis and the treatment can be exorbitant, placing these options out of reach of a large number of patients. Due to the nature of these disorders, which are often only identified after 2 or 3 misdiagnoses, an ordeal that can typically take years, mistrust and cynicism in rare disease communities can run deep. Tragically, many children with rare diseases don't have the luxury of waiting 5 years. Rare diseases are responsible for 35% of deaths in the first year of life. 30% of children with rare diseases die before their 5th birthday. One of the best ways to help those living with rare diseases is to increase awareness. This event today, affiliated with the Global Rare Disease Day Initiative, is one of the thousands of similar events worldwide intended to educate the public and healthcare professionals about orphan conditions and people who live with them. By introducing more medical professionals to the long roster of rare diseases, the possible genetic triggers, and the confusion faced by patients and their families, we can help connect the dots and deliver more timely and more accurate diagnoses. Additionally, awareness campaigns and publicity can help fuel increased funding for essential research and the development of medical alternatives. When the existence of rare diseases is obscured by darkness, those suffering with the effects are doomed to darkness as well. For the benefit of these residents, I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of creating the Advisory Council charged with conducting a comprehensive study of all issues related to the treatment and the services provided to persons with rare diseases and work towards creating policy recommendations, as well as a repository of best practice standards to share with all healthcare providers. It's always been difficult for rare disease patients to find satisfactory medical determination and effective remedies. And with emergent challenges like COVID, the stakes are that much higher now. With the creation of this important advisory council, we can help improve communication and consciousness about these illnesses and their challenges. We can continue spreading the word and help convince and encourage and motivate medical researchers and pharmaceutical firms to dedicate some of their resources to unlocking the mysteries of rare diseases. While rare diseases affect narrow segments of the population, the potential for profit from the development of these targeted medications and effective therapies remain. Working together, we can change the landscape and improve the lives of those coping with the rare disease. Thank you for allowing me to talk for a few minutes today. And thank you so much for your strong leadership and advocacy.
Thank you so much, Senator Kane. I'm just overwhelmed. I really am. And we're almost there with the council, and the momentum from today is huge. And so, you know, we're just going to keep on going. We're going to get this done, and we're going to do so much for the rare disease community, and there's so much need. And so that really brings us now to community introductions. This is an opportunity for everyone here today to share. And we have about 15 minutes to do that. And then we're going to have a quick ending video, but then we're going to stay on until noon for anybody who didn't get a chance to speak and anyone who just wants to chat and share. But so now we really want to hear from you, and we want to hear from the whole community. So the patients, the caregivers, those who are working on new treatments, and working in government, lawmakers. So this is your chance. And we'd like you to try and share, introduce yourself, speak about what the creation of the Rare Disease Advisory Council would mean to you. How could it help you or a loved one? Or how could it help you with the passion you have for your work, to continue your work and to make, just make it possible if you're working in industry on treatments or advocating to do that through the council. So we're gonna open it up, we're gonna try it. And if you wanna just say in the chat, if you'd like to speak. Anissa, I know you're looking at the chat really closely too, and Kristen and Pat. So just put in the chat if you'd like to speak, and we will call on you.
And I really, just a little insert, like the rare disease community, the RDAC is the biggest question out there is, how do you see this committee helping you? And if you really think about that, I think you'll find a lot of things popping in your head, like, oh, and when I share my story about my daughter, 7 years ago, I was that mom on the couch crying, trying to figure out what to get for insurance or doctors. All of the stories that I heard today, like, really hit home for me, because each and everything you touched on has been my life. And, I was told my daughter wouldn't live to be 1 year old, and now she's 7. The opportunities that are here with the medical and the research, it's just unbelievable. And we have to all just keep going at that. But right now, anyone who shares what they're, how this is going to help, we're going to write this down, because it's going to go back to the committee and be added, because we have to keep adding to meet everyone's needs. And that's the beautiful thing about this council and about this company, is that we want to meet everyone's needs. And I'm excited to hear what everybody has to say.
Julie, we have a couple people in the chat, so I'm just going to go by the order. Elizabeth Bredden would like to say something. So Elizabeth, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So there's my rare little zebra, Kelly, back there. We just got home from PT. I jumped on really, really late, so I'm trying to expand. I'm an advocate for Kelly. Kelly has a rare disease called PAX1. She is only one of 3 kids in New Jersey. So I've been very hesitant in trying to come out, because like nobody's going to listen to me because there's 3 kids in New Jersey. Nobody's going to listen to what I need. There's 157 kids in the world with this disease. That's how rare it is. She's misdiagnosed for years. So I only popped on 10 minutes ago, so the 2 senators, and thrilled and shaking and happy that maybe, even though my kid is only one of 3 in the state, things will get better. Things will be heard. I struggle every day trying to get through COVID and giving her PT at home and OT and speech and all. I don't have a lot to say. I want to grow and learn and advocate for her more. I do it through other states and other people that have more kids. And Tara Crocker, who is on here, does it great with the Fighting Hard organization, HARD, having a rare disease. So I'm going to stop talking. I just wanted to introduce Kelly and say thank you for all that are here. And I'm looking forward to moving forward and learning more and sharing more. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We have Laurel Smith who'd like to share something.
Hi, my name is Laurel Smith, and I'm from Medford, New Jersey, and my son has mitochondrial disease, complex 1, and pyruvate dehydrogenase deficiency. And so I think that I love the idea of a rare disease council. One of the things about rare diseases we all know is when we're one, we're small, but when we all act together, we're a big community, and I think that that gives us power. So I was really excited to write in support of the council when you asked for letters to be writing, and I'm great at writing letters, so let's get this thing going and get help for all of our kids. That's it.
Thank you. Nadia Bodkin would like to say something.
Sorry, I'm unmuting. Hi, so my name is Nadia Bodkin. I'm the founding member for Rare Advocacy Movement. And in addition to being a seasoned rare disease community-based advocate, I'm a person living with 3 rare genetic conditions. I have a connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a blood condition called beta thalassemia, and then a vital protein deficiency called alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency. So I was lucky that all 3 conditions were fit for life, but by the time I had graduated university, my condition progressed to the point where my medical team gave me an expiration date of December 2012. So long story short, every single type of specialist, geneticists, genetic counselors, pharmacists, physicians, as you already know, the list goes on, that will be appointed to this council, played a vital role in keeping me alive. And quite honestly, I'm not the only one outliving my expiration date within the rare disease community. So I used to be a rare disease child that put my mom through countless sleepless nights, and she used to stare at me as I slept wondering if I was going to wake up. And now I joined 71% of the entire rare disease population in being a rare disease adult because of scientific advancements in therapeutic research. And so I actually met Assemblyman Dancer in 2015, which was 6 years ago. And I still have a hard time believing it was that long ago. So Assemblyman Dancer has always been known to make time for his constituents. So as his constituent at the time, I scheduled an appointment to discuss sponsoring the bill that would establish a Rare Disease Advisory Council for the state of New Jersey. And though it took place several years ago, that meeting was a positive influence on my personal aspirations as a rare disease patient advocate, where it only took sharing my story with him for him to say yes, of course, to sponsoring this bill. And quite honestly, if it wasn't for Assemblyman Dancer saying yes to sponsoring this bill, I wouldn't have had the pleasure of working with legislative experts like Haskell Berman from Hinge and others who played pivotal roles in guiding the New Jersey rare disease advocacy community through fairly complex New Jersey legislative process. So after over half a decade, it is so exciting that the plight of people like me in New Jersey that either are born with rare conditions or acquire them later in life may have a Rare Disease Advisory Council working for our best interests. So as a person living on borrowed time, I just want to thank everyone who has stepped up to actively support this bill.
Thank you, Nadia. We have Eric, and I don't want to attempt to say your last name because I might butcher it, so I apologize. But Eric, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, my name's Eric Majusiak, Mayushak. I just go by Eric. I opened up Eric's Journey Foundation in New Jersey last year, and one of the things I'd like to really bring to light and hope to discuss in the future with the councils is kind of the expectation versus experience that a rare disease patient may have. A lot of it seems to be within the what can be called like paperwork burden, whose responsibility it is to report problems. I work full time, my wife works full time. We try to manage life, so it gets difficult. So the case managers and such are helpful throughout the community when you can find them. But the issues through the system are real, and it's hard to get these issues to the people who need to hear them. And I've been noticing a lot of like procedures not followed. So written and video instructions for somebody like me to follow to help gain access to some of these programs. I'm a very successful civil engineer, very logical mind, but I've lost a lot of other stuff due to my illness. Anoxic brain injury from lack of oxygen, and I don't qualify for a lot of the brain injury funds or anything because it's not a concussive injury. So I hope like the struggles I'm having accessing these treatments, I'm very intellectual. I could solve big math problems, algorithms, but I can't get through the simple system sometimes. And I find it difficult on who I can contact because there's so many people doing so many things. As mentioned, when you are a rare disease, there might be a doctor who doesn't know, and like many doctors who don't know what this rare disease is. It seems like that's within the system, and there's so much help spread out, but how do you get to that help? Just like how do you find the right doctors? And it seems to be a missing gap between kind of both for me. So those instructions I think are huge, and getting people who have chronic illness, who don't have sometimes the brain power for the day to dig into lawyer documents, that'd be huge. Thank you for your time. Appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you, Eric and Amanda. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for sharing today. I know that wasn't easy. I have one more person that's messaged. Tara, would you like to share?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for doing this. This has been a tremendous morning. Listening to all of you share your stories and your passion for the rare disease world is just truly inspiring and motivational. And I'm so excited to see all of the amazing things ahead. My name is Tara Crocker. I run a very small nonprofit 501c3 out of Howell, New Jersey called Fighting Hard Foundation. As Beth Breeden mentioned earlier, who is an amazing Fighting Hard mama with that beautiful girl, Kelly, right behind her. She's tremendously incredible, and it's families like hers that we're looking to support. The foundation was started by my daughters, who are now 18 and almost 17 years old. My daughter Alexandra was just 12 years old when she came to me and said, "Ma, nobody understands what I'm going through. There's no name for my disease. Everybody knows it's rare or something's wrong with me, but they can't figure it out. And I just don't want other kids to feel alone like me." So we started, and our mission is to help other children and other families with rare diseases and chronic illness to just know they're not alone. That's grown into researching through NORD, seeing all the beautiful things that you share, and meeting other families. And I've even followed Nadia, who's just been tremendous in the rare disease world and community, and seeing all the beautiful things ahead, and just seeing how we can help these families better. We work toward raising awareness for these families. We just did an incredible run hard for rare kids. We raised over $18,000 just last week for kids with rare diseases right here in Monmouth and Ocean County mostly. And then what we do is try to support those individual diseases for their research, because we believe that the research will, or the knowledge will lead to the research and then hopefully lead to cures for these families. But in the interim, we're looking to help these families with medical supplies that might not be covered by insurance, which a lot of our families deal with. A lot of travel expenses. My own daughter, my other daughter, has a very rare gastrointestinal disease. She has a gastric pacemaker, one of less than 100 kids in the entire world. So we have to travel to Ohio, to Nationwide Children's Hospital, for this medical device. So hearing from Bionj and all the wonderful technology that's out there, you know, some of these families have to travel and just don't have the means to do so. So at least through the foundation, we're able to hopefully provide more and more to each of these families, nutritional supplements, diapers for children who overage, and just those are continued expenses for these families that, you know, the political world might not just see every day what these families endure. So I'm here as a resource to all of you. I'm happy to help in any way we can. We have parent support groups. We have advocacy support that we're offering for our families, and welcoming new families each and every day. And I'm just so inspired and thankful to all of you on this call today. And let's make a difference for the rare disease world. I cannot wait for this Rare Disease Advisory Council. I'm happy to help in any way we possibly can. I'm looking forward to all the beautiful things ahead, to just raising awareness for our kiddos.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
I'm first of all just amazed by all of the talent we have here in New Jersey and the passion. And I'm just so excited about coming together and doing this work together. I'm also so impressed with all of you for staying in perfect timing. This is exactly the time that we were going to show the end video. Anissa, you wanted to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I did want to add, let me reshare my screen here. One other little piece that we're doing here. We are going to be giving out a few prizes. So after the event, we're going to be randomly selecting 2 winners from the attendee list to receive these Rare Disease Day swag bags that are seen here. Winners will be contacted via email this week and will receive their prize pack sometime in mid-March. So thank you and good luck. And with that, I will show our closing video in one moment here.
Every year on the last day of February, the National Organization for Rare Disorders joins together with others around the world to raise awareness of the challenges faced by people living with rare diseases. Achieving health equity is even more difficult for rare patients. To have equity in health means everyone has an opportunity to be as healthy as possible, regardless of social, geographic, economic, or other obstacles that may be working against them. At NORD, we appreciate your support, which allows us to work on issues like health equity and many others, and for our staff and volunteers to bring them to the forefront on Rare Disease Day.
From the volunteer state ambassadors, we would like to say thank you to all of our Rare Action Network supporters for helping us connect with rare patients and families in our states.
And thank you for allowing the Rare Action Network to raise important issues with state lawmakers on Rare Disease Day and throughout the year.
Did you know that in medical school I was told, when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras? But what about the more than 25 million Americans living with a rare disease? At NORD, we are humbled to provide help and resources to our zebras and their caregivers.
NORD support allowed me to catch up on some overdue bills, including my rent. Thank you for your support, NORD, and thank you for supporting Rare Disease Day.
From all of us at NORD, thank you for your dedication to the rare disease community on Rare Disease Day and every day.
Yay, we did it. Thank you to all the speakers and all of you in the community who shared. So many people were involved in making this program today and in working on the council. It really takes a village. Thank you to our partners at Hinge. As Nadia pointed out, Haskell has been so supportive and all the work on the advisory council, as has John Slotman at Bionj and countless other people. So I'm just overwhelmed by all that all of you are doing. We have a few minutes for folks if you want to stay on and chat about the council or anything that's on your mind. We're here.
And just a quick thank you to Julie and Patricia for coordinating today's event, and again to NJ Bio and Hinge for your continued partnership for Rare Disease Day events. We always look forward to New Jersey's event, and I'm glad we were able to close out our season today with the New Jersey event. But thank you, Julie and Patricia, and thank you to all the speakers for joining us today and sharing your stories and perspectives.
Well, thank you, Kristen. The policy team has grown and you've been able to provide even more support than ever this year. And we really, really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Kristen. And Jersey strong we are, right?
And we do have a question. Somebody asked about listening to the recording. So we do have this meeting has been recorded. It will be available on the rarenj.org site. Most likely some point next week, but we will email out all registered attendees when the recording is available, so you will have access to it.
I have a quick question, Julie, if you don't mind. I'm just wondering if there's a call to action that we could do. You know, after today's meeting, this was so inspiring and so incredible. So I'm just wondering, what can we do today? Should we reach out to the governor today? Can we have our families and our community support, you know, our social media? What can we do to help you guys today to make a difference? And
all of the above. All of the above.
Yeah, so Tara, that's, you know, a wonderful question. And again, this is something that Anissa is really helping us with putting out action alerts. So look out for the action alerts. We should have one really soon. We can have another organizing RDAC meeting soon on Zoom, because we really need to create kind of that blueprint for getting from where we are now to getting the bill passed, to organizing the committee. So absolutely, Tara, I'm so excited to meet you. I've heard about your foundation and really excited to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all are.
And just to put, so I think the RAN network, the ability to join was dropped in there, but if you select your state when you sign up, you'll get different action alerts, different events going on, and then RDAC New Jersey Planning Coalition meetings once they pop up. So we'll definitely keep everyone looped in. And thank you so much for your willingness to be of support in these efforts.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan. I've been Facebook friends with Fighting Hard for a while now, and I love seeing your posts and all that you do, and your children inspiring you. It's good stuff, really good stuff.
Well, thank you all again for joining us today, and we look forward to working with you on future events and activities, and have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess we lost Kristen. So is everybody talked out? Often an hour and a half is kind of the end of the attention folks have to stay on a Zoom. But if there's anything anybody wants to talk about, we can.
I just want to say thank you to all the organizers for having this event. This is my first New Jersey Rare Disease Day event, and I'm really excited to have been a part of it, to see it.
Your story was so moving to me. It's very similar to my daughter's with different outcomes, but it was really like I was you when I had that with my daughter, and like when I first did that, I was so alone. I didn't know there was anyone else out there, and so I mean, your story is beautiful, and the research and stuff that you're doing, it's great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, I was just talking about this with my husband today, like the fact that, like, you know, we were told that there was nothing that could be done was like, actually at that time, it was just like, that was just something that we had to accept. And it was like the least of our problems, because we, you know, it was at that time, it was like, well, he's not going to live this long. And that was it. That's all they could give us. And I was like, but he's still alive now. So what am I supposed to do now? And that was, and so our life with him was not sitting there ruminating over the fact that there was no treatment options. It was more like, okay, well, what do we do now? And moving from there. And it's taken, you know, him passing and all this time since then to be like, you know what, it was really messed up that there were no treatment options for him. And now, you know, I feel very passionate about that. But it's funny, during that time, there were so many other things that were making me really sad.
Yeah, for me, it was like, it was very dark for a couple months while I waited for and the results were wrong. They were wrong about my daughter, but it was over 8 weeks of waiting. And at that point I was like you just want to love her and just be with her, because you don't know what else to do. And it just, yeah. And when people say, and I still receive this all the time, we don't have a diagnosis, we don't have a treatment. They treat the individual things that she might have. Like, she's on TPN, she has some issues with her brain. But it's hard, and like someone on here was talking about the acceptance of it, and I don't know if you ever really fully can like accept when you don't understand. If doctors and everyone around you don't understand what's wrong with your child, how can you know? And it's just, yeah, it's a very, and I think all the families go through this when they find out something is, you know, their child's rare. Well, what does that mean, you know? And yeah, your story is, yeah, I totally understand how you were feeling at that time.
Well, I felt like this was I felt like it was a very well organized. I was really surprised. I haven't been to a single event where everybody was on time with everything.
I know. Yay, Julie. Julie was worried. Julie.
I was obsessive with the run of show, and I just kept sending it out and updating it, and was like.
But we didn't even have to say to anybody, okay, 2 minutes. Like everybody
the speakers were incredible.
Amazing.
The organization was really it was nice because it felt extremely organized, but it still has that sort of grassroots kind of feel, which is like exactly the balance that you want for events like this, you know?
I do it for a living. I do it for Chi. So we have a lot of, you know, the pandemic really, we transitioned early. And as all the organizations have, we've all done it. So it's really a testament to how everybody has adapted to this new environment, is using the technology really effectively. There was something really cozy and nice about this, you know, that is sort of different from doing it in person, which is obviously wonderful when we can all be together in person. But I have to say, this is like really effective, this Zoom stuff. And most of me, I'm so glad that this event brought us together, and loved your talk. I'm so interested in your research. So just really good to be with you today, and you know, looking forward to the future.
Absolutely. Well, let's definitely keep in contact. And if there's anything that I can do in the future and sort of to help with advocacy, I'm pretty green when it comes to like legislative efforts.
Yeah, don't be worried.
You know,
you know what you need to know.
I will.
Yeah.
I'm happy to share whatever I've learned throughout the process as a way to sort of convince legislators to, you know, make lives better for families like ours. So please feel free to keep in contact, and I will certainly reach out to you and to all of you guys in the future, and attend all the future sort of meetings and stuff like that.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, I hope you guys have a great day. I'm gonna hop off, but thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Bye. Have a good day.
Anybody else out there want to share something or ask a question?
Okay, well then maybe we'll just end this. So, Pat, so great working with you.
Oh my gosh, this was so exciting. You know, this is my first time, and thank you, Julie and Anissa and Kristen, everybody for getting me prepared for this. It was wonderful, so amazing.
You guys did a
great people, everything. It just, my heart is very warm right after all this.
Good.
Feeling y'all. Thank you.
Really super teamwork, all of you. I'm really, really impressed.
Well, thank you guys. And I think you do get the award for the best time, like in you know, Julie